Hello, welcome to day of reading through the Bible. I'm Toni Henderson-Mayers. I'll be your reader. I'm known as an actor, a director, producer, professor, but most important, I'm a child of God. And I'm also known as an entrepreneur too, as well. If you want to know more about me, join my Toni Henderson-Mayers YouTube channel. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe and ring the notification bell for that channel and this one so you'll know every time I upload a new video. So, you ready to read God's word? Let's go. Okay, we are going to read Second Kings 24 through 25 and Second Chronicles, I think 36. I got to put on my glasses. Yeah, 36. Let's read. Okay, Second Kings 24 through 25. During Jehoiakim's reign, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, invaded the land, and Jehoiakim became his vassal for 3 years. These pages are stuck together, and I unstuck them, and then they're trying to stick again. Okay, became his vassal for 3 years. But then he turned against Nebuchadnezzar and rebelled. The Lord sent Babylonian, Aramean, Moabite, and Ammonite raiders against him to destroy Judah, in accordance with the word of the Lord proclaimed by his servants, the prophets. Surely these things happened to Judah according to the Lord's command, in order to remove them from his presence because of the sins of Manasseh and all he had done, including the shedding of innocent blood. For he had filled Jerusalem with innocent blood, and the Lord was not willing to forgive. As for the other events of Jehoiakim's reign and all he did, are they not written in the book of the annals of the kings of Judah? Jehoiakim rested with his ancestors, and Jehoiachin, his son, succeeded him as king. The king of Egypt did not march out from his own country again because the king of Babylon had taken all his territory, from the Wadi of Egypt to the Euphrates River. Jehoiachin, king of Judah. Jehoiachin was 18 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 3 months. His mother's name was Nehushta, daughter of Elathan. She was from Jerusalem. He did evil in the eyes of the Lord, just as his father had done. At that time, the officers of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, advanced on Jerusalem and laid siege to it. And Nebuchadnezzar himself came up to the city while his officers were besieging it. Jehoiachin, king of Judah, his mother, his attendants, his nobles, and his officials all surrendered to him. In the 8th year of the reign of the king of Babylon, he took Jehoiachin prisoner. As the Lord had declared, Nebuchadnezzar removed the treasures from the temple of the Lord and from the royal palace, and cut up the gold articles that Solomon, king of Israel, had made for the temple of the Lord. He carried all Jerusalem into exile, all the officers and fighting men, and all the skilled workers and artisans, a total of 10,000. Only the poorest people of the land were left. Nebuchadnezzar took Jehoiachin captive to Babylon. He also took from Jerusalem to Babylon the king's mother, his wives, his officials, and the prominent people of the land. The king of Babylon also deported to Babylon the entire force of 7,000 fighting men, strong and fit for war, and 1,000 skilled workers and artisans. He made Mattaniah, Jehoiachin's uncle, king in his place and changed his name to Zedekiah. Zedekiah, king of Judah. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 11 years. His mother's name was Hamutal, daughter of Jeremiah. She was from Libnah. He did evil in the eyes of the Lord, just as Jehoiakim had done. It was because of the Lord's anger that all this happened to Jerusalem and Judah, and in the end he thrust them from his presence. The fall of Jerusalem. Now Zedekiah rebelled against the king of Babylon. So in the 9th year of Zedekiah's reign, on the 10th day of the 10th month, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, marched against Jerusalem with his whole army. He encamped outside the city and built siege works all around it. The city was kept under the siege until the 11th year of King Zedekiah. By the 9th day of the 4th month, the famine in the city had become so severe that there was no food for the people to eat. Then the city was broken through, and the whole army fled at night through the gate between the two walls near the king's garden, though the Babylonians were surrounding the city. They fled toward the Arba, but the Babylonian army pursued the king and overtook him in the plains of Jericho. All his soldiers were separated from him and scattered, and he was captured. He was taken to the king of Babylon at Riblah, where sentence was pronounced on him. They killed the sons of Zedekiah before his eyes. Then they put out his eyes, bound him with bronze shackles, and took him to Babylon. On the 7th day of the 5th month, in the 19th year of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, Nebuzaradan, commander of the imperial guard and officer of the king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem. He set fire to the temple of the Lord, the royal palace, and all the houses of Jerusalem. Every important building he burnt down. The whole Babylonian army under the commander of the imperial guard broke down the walls around Jerusalem. Nebuzaradan, the commander of the guard, carried into exile the people who remained in the city, along with the rest of the populace and those who had deserted to the king of Babylon. But the commander left behind some of the poorest people of the land to work the vineyards and fields. The Babylonians broke up the bronze pillars, the movable stands, and the bronze sea that were at the temple of the Lord, and they carried the bronze to Babylon. They also took away the pots, shovels, wick trimmers, dishes, and all the bronze articles used in the temple service. The commander of the imperial guard took away the censers and sprinkling bowls, all that were made of pure gold or silver. The bronze from the two pillars, the sea, and the movable stands, which Solomon had made for the temple of the Lord, was more than could be weighed, was more than what than could be weighed. Each pillar was 18 cubits high. The bronze capital on top of one pillar was 3 cubits high and was decorated with a network and pomegranates of bronze all around. The other pillar with its network was similar. The commander of the guard took as prisoners Sariah, the chief priest, Zephaniah, the priest next in rank, and the 3 doorkeepers. Of those still in the city, he took the officer in charge of the fighting men and 5 royal advisors. He also took the secretary, who was chief officer in charge of conscripting the people of the land, and 60 of the conscripts who were found in the city. Nebuzaradan, the commander, took them all, and brought them to the king of Babylon at Riblah. There at Riblah, in the land of Hamath, the king had them executed. So Judah went into captivity away from her land. Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, appointed Gedaliah, son of Ahiakim, the son of Shaphan, to be over the people he had left behind in Judah. When all army officers and their men heard that the king of Babylon had appointed Gedaliah as governor, they came to Gedaliah at Mizpah. Ishmael, son of Nethaniah, Jonathan, son of Kareah, Sariah, son of Tanhumeth, the Netophathite, Jazaniah, the son of the Maccathite, and their men. I gotta get past this. Gedaliah took an oath to reassure them and their men. Do not be afraid of the Babylonian officials, he said. Settle down in the land and serve the king of Babylon, and it will go well with you. In the 11th month, however, Ishmael, son of Nethaniah, the son of Elishama, who was of royal blood, came with 10 men and assassinated Gedaliah, and also the men of Judah and the Babylonians who were with him at Mizpah. At this, all the people from the least to the greatest, together with the army officials, fled to Egypt for fear of the Babylonians. Jehoiachin released. In the 37th year of the exile of Jehoiachin, king of Judah, in the year Awel Marduk became king of Babylon, he released Jehoiachin, king of Judah, from prison. He did this on the 27th day of the 12th month. He spoke kindly to him and gave him a seat of honor higher than those of the other kings who were with him in Babylon. So Jehoiachin put aside his prison clothes and for the rest of his life ate regularly at the king's table. Day by day, the king gave Jehoiachin a regular allowance as long as he lived. So now we're going to go to 2 Chronicles 36. Excuse me. Let's get back to it. Okay. 2 Chronicles 36. Well, it's spilling off from another chapter here. So let's back up on one of the verses there. All the events from the beginning to end are written in the book of the kings of Israel and Judah. Okay. And the people, and by the way, 2 Chronicles 36 is our last chapter reading for today. And the people of the land took Jehoaz, son of Josiah, and made him king in Jerusalem in place of his father. Jehoaz, king of Judah. Jehoaz was 23 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 3 months. The king of Egypt dethroned him in Jerusalem and imposed on Judah a levy of 100 talents of silver and a talent of gold. The king of Egypt made Eliakim, a brother of Jehoaz, king over Judah and Jerusalem, and changed Eliakim's name to Jehoiakim. But Necho took Eliakim's brother Jehoaz and carried him off to Egypt. Jehoiakim, king of Judah. Jehoiakim was 25 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 11 years. He did evil in the eyes of the Lord his God. Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, attacked him and bound him with bronze shackles to take him to Babylon. Nebuchadnezzar also took to Babylon articles from the temple of the Lord and put them in his temple there. The other events of Jehoiakim's reign and the detestable things he did and all that was found against him are written in the book of the kings of Israel, and Judah, and Jehoiachin, his son, succeeded him as king. Jehoiachin, king of Judah. Jehoiachin was 18 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 3 months and 10 days. He did evil in the eyes of the Lord. In the spring, King Nebuchadnezzar sent for him and brought him to Babylon, together with articles of value from the temple of the Lord. And he made Jehoiachin's uncle Zedekiah king over Judah and Jerusalem. Zedekiah, king of Judah. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 11 years. He did evil in the eyes of the Lord, his God, and did not humble himself before Jeremiah the prophet, who spoke the word of the Lord. He also rebelled against King Nebuchadnezzar, who made him take an oath in God's name. He became stiff-necked and hardened his heart and would not turn to the Lord, the God of Israel. Furthermore, all the leaders and the priests and the people became more and more unfaithful, following all the detestable practices of the nations and defiling the temple of the Lord, which he had consecrated in Jerusalem. The fall of Jerusalem. The Lord, the God of their ancestors, sent word to them through his messengers again and again, because he had pity on his people and on his dwelling place. But they mocked God's messengers, despised his words, and scoffed at his prophets until the wrath of the Lord was aroused against his people, and there was no remedy. He brought up against them the king of the Babylonians, who killed their young men with the sword in the sanctuary, and did not spare young men or young women, the elderly or the infirmed. They gave them all into their hands. God gave them all into the hands of Nebuchadnezzar. He carried the Babylonian, he carried to Babylonia, he carried to Babylon all the articles from the temple of God, both large and small, and the treasures of the Lord's temple, and the treasures of king and his officials. They set fire to God's temple and broke down the wall of Jerusalem. They burned all the palaces and destroyed everything of value there. He carried into exile to Babylon the remnant who escaped from the sword, and they became servants to him and his successors until the kingdom of Persia came to power. The land enjoyed its Sabbath rest. All the time of its desolation, it rested until the 70 years were completed in fulfillment of the word of the Lord spoken by Jeremiah. In the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, in order to fulfill the word of the Lord spoken by Jeremiah, the Lord moved the heart of Cyrus, king of Persia, to make a proclamation throughout his realm and also to put it in writing. This is what Cyrus, king of Persia, says: The Lord of God, the Lord, the God of heaven, has given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and he has appointed me to build a temple for him at Jerusalem in Judah. Any of his people among you may go up, and may the Lord their God be with them. My, my, my. Well, may the Lord add a blessing to the reading and the hearing of his holy word. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you know every time I upload a new video. Well, I love reading Second Kings and Second Chronicles side by side, because one of them gives you so much tea, so much information, and the other one kind of gives you an outline. And they interchange depending, but it's always action-packed, right? It's always action packed. So let's look a little bit over what we have read thus far. So in 2 Kings 24 and 25, well, first of all, we talked about Jehoiakim, king of Judah, and his reign. And then we talked about Jehoiachin, king of Judah, and his reign. Neither one of them reigned a whole lot of times. Let's see. Jehoiakim wasn't too bad. He did about 11 years. Um, and he was 25 years old when he came into power. But these guys, both of them, and Jehoiachin was 18 years old and he did 3 months. Okay, so when you get in 3 months, it ain't gonna be good. It's usually not going to be good. These guys did evil in the sight of the Lord. And wow, it was just a lot going on. And all of this because they did not listen to what Jeremiah had prophesied. Okay. And they had a choice at that moment. If they would have done what they were supposed to do, and first of all, the people in general live holy in God's sight, they wouldn't be in this mess. But also remember, Jeremiah did prophesy to Zedekiah at one point, and he's like, if you surrender yourself, then you and your people, y'all gonna be all right. The Lord is gonna take care of you. But he goes to him in private, they talk about this stuff, and then he act like he didn't hear no kind of prophecy. Okay. He didn't hear any old kind of prophecy. Then he gets in Babylon and he acts crazy, even with that leader. Okay. Zedekiah did make it as king of Judah, but he just wasn't obedient. And it just goes to show you, because you read how about God gave them into the hands of, and sometimes I guess you could read that as if, well, the Lord just threw them up in there, threw them up under the bus because they didn't do what he said. But you may also think of it as he tries to get you to do things according to his will and way because it's best for you. It's the easier way. It's the more comfortable way. But you have a choice, right? And then when you make that choice, you just say, okay. So that's the same as giving over to. It's like, well, okay, well, that's what you want to do, but it's not going to be safe. Okay. It's not going to be safe. And that's like you trying to keep your child in the safety of your home, and then they decide they're going to sneak out in the middle of the night. It's not like you want that to happen, right? But what can you do other than when you come back and try, you try to discipline them and say, this is not a good way to go, whatever. But if you run out there, okay, he can't protect you. Well, he can protect you, but he's telling you that it's not protection outside of. The protection is staying here with me. Okay, so it's just like if a child gets outside of the gate, or your puppy or whatever gets outside the gate, there's no protection outside of the gate, right? And so your watchful eye is within the gate. And if they happen to get outside the gate when you weren't looking or something like that, then the protection is not there. You want it to be there if you are there to see it and all that kind of thing. But you are taking your life in your hands when you go outside of God's will, because the protection is within his will. It keeps you safe at all times. Okay. And God is a gentleman. He ain't gonna shove religion down your throat, honey. He ain't gonna shove a relationship down your throat. It's thoroughly your choice. Okay. And so now we see the fall of Jerusalem as we get into 2 Kings 25. And it was really bad. It was really bad. It was a lot going on. People were getting sentenced. People were getting executed. People were, they was getting hurt, from the least to the greatest. Those who were too poor had to stay behind, and they became, uh, well, even we talked about Gedaliah, and that was so interesting. He ends up getting assassinated. It was just a hot mess. And then at the end of 2 Kings 25, Jehoiachin gets released um, after about 37 years of being exiled, and then he gets restored to sit at the king's table and with honor, etc., etc. Let's jump over to Second Chronicles. There's a lot of stuff going on. I don't want to be too long, but I just want to highlight a few things. Jehoaz, king of Judah, He reigns for 20 when he was 23 years old, and he reigns in Jerusalem 3 months. Now y'all know the deal, right? He gets dethroned. All right. He gets a levy opposed on him. That's money, y'all. Okay. He got to pay money and all this kind of stuff, a crazy amount of money. Then his brother Eliakim, um, they make him king over Judah. Okay. Um, and then of course Jehoiakim becomes king over Judah. And we already read about what happens to him and Jehoiakim. We already read about that. So that was a repeat of what we had in Second Kings. So there's a lot of stuff going on. I think, and of course, they talk about the fall of Jerusalem, but there was something added in Second Chronicles that was not in Second Kings, and that's the mention of King Cyrus, okay, and how the Lord used him. He was the king of Persia, and he just used him in order to fulfill the word of the Lord spoken by Jeremiah. Okay. And he put on Cyrus' heart to make a proclamation throughout all that he commanded, and to put it also in writing. Okay. And this is what it was: the Lord of God, the Lord, the God of heaven, has given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and he has appointed me to build a temple for him at Jerusalem in Judah. Any of his people among you may go up, and may the Lord their God be with them. And people sometimes go on the Lord, and he'll use anybody. Of course he will use anybody. And the Lord used an evil king to do something good. Yes, he did. Or did you ever ask why? Ask why? Because he couldn't get you to do it. Okay. He couldn't get you to do it. So when you start seeing some evil people start doing some good stuff, that means maybe we sitting down a little too much. Maybe we not doing our part, okay? Because these people was not listening. The children of God was not listening, okay? They weren't listening. That's what we call it. Not listening. And so he used the king to put a proclamation to force these people to worship God, okay? Because if that decree had not been there, they may not have done it. Okay. And when I say that, I say that in general. Of course, you probably had some that was worshiping God, of course, that was leaning and dependent on God. But this is something that we have to kind of think about in our daily lives. Is there something that we are just failing at when it comes to listening and obeying God? And God got to raise up somebody who ain't even thinking about him to get us to do right. My, oh my, my, oh my. Well, visit me on my website, which is www.tonihenderson-mayers.com. And just know that the word of God is a lamp unto our feet. It is a light unto our path. We will hide God's word in our hearts that we may not sin against God. You take care, and I will see you on tomorrow, God willing. Hey there, thank you so much for checking out my video, and I want you to check out my website at tonihenderson-mayers.com. You can find out about me in film and stage. You can also find out about the wise courtship philosophy and everything that I do, speaking across the country, and the book that I've written. And of course, you can go on to my online store, where you can learn a lot of information about business, get coaching sessions, online courses, and so much more. Not only that, I have an Etsy store, which the website of all of these things are in my description. So make sure you go to my Etsy shop, which is called Faith, Hope, and Love Center. Make sure you go to that so you can get t-shirts, and I'm adding things every day: t-shirts, mugs, masks, all types of things, into the link that's going to take you to all of the books that we're using pretty much in our Read Through the Bible series. So here are the journals. This reflection journal is so that you can write and take notes. This one has a lot of study information, and will help you keep organized as you're studying the Bible. This is the Bible that I read from, the NIV Study Bible. Of course, Wise Courtship is here, and some of the other books that I wrote, Yes, God is Real, and also I Rise, Stories of Triumph. It's just a great encouragement tool. So walk on over to the stores and give us some support. I think you're going to be blessed by the products. Take care.